Hello and welcome to the first of our two videos dealing with the promotion component of the four P's of the marketing mix. And in this we will talk about integrated marketing communications. This will be integrated marketing communications part one, and the second video will be integrated marketing communications part two. And you know, this is an area of marketing, the promotion area. This is an area of marketing that has undergone a great deal of change in the last 20 years. And a lot of the change has come because of advances in technology, and just a different approach towards what promotion or what marketing promotion should accomplish. And the integrated marketing communications concept is an example of that. When I learned, when I took my principles of marketing course way back in the spring of 1977, I learned about marketing communication. I learned about marketing promotion, but I didn't learn about integrated marketing communication. And Integrated marketing communication can be defined as integrating and coordinating various marketing communication components to deliver a clear, consistent, and compelling message about an organization and its products. So integrating and coordinating various marketing communication components to deliver a clear, consistent, and compelling message about an organization and its products. And what I like to talk about is the three C's associated with integrated marketing communications: clear, consistent, and compelling. And one of the examples that I use to illustrate maybe not so much integrated marketing communication is I use the John Carroll website. When I would do this face to face, I would go into the John Carroll website and I would look up information for various departments, focusing on faculty profiles, and it's just stunning the lack of consistency across various departments in the university. I mean, um, some of the departments have they just have a name and maybe a picture of a faculty person. Others might have a name, a picture, and some sort of information, and others might be even more extensive. And so what you have is tremendous inconsistency. And then, one of the not so wonderful things about the Bowler School website was, if you went to my department, which was management, marketing, supply chain, I mean, we had pictures, but there were several professors who still had black and white photos. And, if we play word association, right, if we play word association, I say black and white photo, you probably don't, the word compelling probably doesn't come to the top of the water there, right? So again, right, and part of the challenge with the integrated marketing communications is that there's not a general agreement as to what the components of integrated marketing communication are, and B, historically many of these components kind of went and did their own thing in organizations, whereas integrated marketing communication says that no, what should happen is that these different components, if we can agree on what the components are, should work together to go after or try to achieve a clear, consistent, and compelling message. And so I alluded to the fact that there isn't total agreement on what the components of integrated marketing communication are. For example, some people believe that direct marketing is a standalone integrated marketing communication component. Others say no, direct marketing is a special type of advertising. And I really don't want to spend, because we don't have all day here. I don't want to spend, a lot of time arguing about, well, is direct marketing or is it not? What I'll do is I'll provide some components that are considered by different people to be part of marketing communication or marketing promotion. So you have advertising, you have direct marketing, you have online marketing, you have personal selling, you have public relations, and you have sales promotion. So again, advertising, direct marketing, online marketing, personal selling, public relations, and sales promotion. And so one of the challenges is getting those different entities to work together. And like I said, because in many organizations for a long time, those various entities have been kind of allowed to go off and do what it is that they do best, as opposed to having a more common focus. Another challenge is that these entities work on different time frames, and so, for example, public relations is kind of taking a long game, right? And public relations is, we're there, we're going to put information about our company out there, but we're not necessarily looking for any sort of immediate impact from public relations. Sales promotion, on the other hand, is sales promotion is kind of buy and buy now, so very short-term orientation. Whereas public relations takes a much longer perspective on things. And so again, one of the challenges is how do we coordinate and integrate these components when they're operating on very different time schedules. So what we're going to do in this first video is we're going to do what we've done, which is to introduce integrated marketing communications. We have defined integrated marketing communications. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges in coordinating the various components, which we've done. And then what I'll do is I'll spend the rest of this video talking about advertising. And then the next video, the second video, I think we'll talk about, what will we talk about? We'll talk about direct marketing, sales promotion, and personal selling. So I'm not going to deal specifically with online marketing or public relations in either of these two videos. So I'm starting with advertising, and not because necessarily advertising is the most important component in integrated marketing communications, but because if you do the crazy old alphabet, advertising starts with an A, and A is the first letter in the alphabet. Yay for me. So what I will provide a definition of advertising, and a definition of advertising is that advertising is any form of personal presentation and promotion paid for by an identifiable sponsor. So again, any form of non-personal presentation and promotion paid for by an identifiable sponsor. And so there's entire courses that are taught on advertising, and in fact, some universities they have a specific major. You can be an advertising major at some universities. So clearly, just like we found with logistics, we're going to have a challenge here of trying to condense something that can be taught in an entire course into maybe 15 minutes in a video. One of the challenges that advertisers face in today's world is kind of breaking through the clutter, right? The promotional clutter that's out there. And so one of the things that organizations need to think about, marketers need to think about when it comes to advertising is, are there ways that we can put our message together that will potentially break through the clutter, right? So there's the so-called AIDA model that your book talks about, AIDA model. Attention, interest, desire, and action. And so cutting through or breaking through the clutter is really important, because basically, the AIDA model says that action is dependent on desire, which is dependent on interest, which is dependent on attention. And if there's no attention, then there's potentially no action. And so the question to get it, the question for marketers is, how can we get attention? So this is this is where marketers try to figure out ways to cut through the clutter with the messages that they put together with their advertising. And so you'll see different approaches to advertising. So one of the things that you'll see is, if you think about advertising, you see some of them that have some sort of a musical theme, right? And it's because music is attention getting, and music can kind of perhaps get through the clutter. Sometimes what you see is testimonials, right? And so particularly if you're looking at like weight loss products, oftentimes what you'll do is you'll see kind of a before and an after. You see somebody that weighs 400 pounds before, and after they weigh 200 pounds, and the visual contrast is striking, and so that becomes attention getting. That'll get through the clutter as well. So again, there's a lot of different ways that organizations can attempt to break through the clutter, and the reason that they're trying to do that is because of kind of the importance of the AIDA model for marketing promotion. And so what we'll spend the rest of this discussion looking at is we'll talk about various advertising media and their characteristics. And one of the things that has happened, in my lifetime, is that there are kind of new advertising media that have evolved, right? And others that were extremely important when I was younger aren't as important in today's world. And so and it becomes important because if you read the book, right, the book will indicate to you that companies spend a tremendous amount of money on marketing promotion overall and on advertising in particular. And you don't want to be wasting your organization's resources, because if you waste your organization's resources, that's something that can potentially drive up your cost, right? And then if your costs are increasing, that has an implication, or that's going to potentially impact the pricing that you choose to offer in the marketplace. And I'll give you an example, and some of my examples unfortunately are examples of stuff that didn't work. But a number of years ago, John Carroll the MBA program at John Carroll used to advertise on a local radio station, WTAM, which is an AM radio station. And the thought process behind advertising on WTAM is that in the quarterly ratings of radio stations in Northeast Ohio, WTAM was oftentimes first or second. And so it's like one of the most popular radio stations in Northeast Ohio. And so the idea is, well, there's a lot of earballs, right? I won't say eyeballs. There's a lot of ears, right, tuned into WTAM. And so if you've got a lot of ears that are tuned into a radio station, why not focus on that particular radio station? And a flip side of that, though, is if you're one of the more popular radio stations in a market, right, you're going to have to pay more to have your ad appear on that particular radio station. And so, like I said, for 3 or 4 years, John Carroll advertised pretty much exclusively, when it was doing its radio advertising for the MBA program, it was exclusively on WTAM. And then the dean's office decided to take a deeper dive into things. The dean's office in the Boulder School decided to take a deeper dive into things and found out that, it had been spending, X dollars on WTAM, on advertising on WTAM, and it discovered that when it was, tracking the applicants to the MBA program, it found out that basically fewer than 10 over like a 4-year period had applied to John Carroll because of hearing about it on WTAM. And there are a number of reasons for that, but basically what the Boulder School learned was that the advertising on WTAM was a waste of money. And they were spending money, and they were getting no applicants, or virtually, a handful or 2 handfuls of applicants in return. So it's an example of how, misallocating your advertising dollars can kind of like suck up organizational resources, but not lead to a lot of positive return. And one of the things that, you talk about radio, radio is a very different medium in 2018 than it was, back when I was younger. It's nowhere near as prevalent. And there's tremendous segmentation opportunities in radio, but right, you've had growth, for example, in free or satellite, I won't say free radio, satellite radio, or online radio. And some of these radio stations, there's no commercials, right? And so you've got something that's very different, right? And so, and for example, now in my automobile, I have a Sirius satellite system, so I don't listen to commercial or terrestrial, what they call terrestrial radio anymore, which means that I'm not being exposed to the ads that are being placed for for particular products. Plus, one of the things is that even if you don't have terrestrial radio, or excuse me, even if you don't have satellite radio in let's say your automobile, it's so much easier now to be able to switch radio stations than when I had my first automobile, it was a tuner, right? You had to you literally had to move the dial, right, to change the station. And so one of the reasons that I bring that up is that technological advances have had an impact on the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of particular advertising media. I go back to you think about TV. I mean, one of the nice things about television advertising is that it appeals to multiple senses, right? Television is both sight and sound. Radio, on the other hand, is just sound. And so as a marketer, if you're trying to do marketing promotion, the ability to target multiple senses, right, is another potential way to break through the clutter. But I think back to when I was in college, and if I were watching television and I wanted to change, and an ad came on a TV program, and I wanted to change it, I had to get up. I had to move my body, go over to the television, and turn channels and do stuff like that. You think about now, we can TiVo our way around things. We've got remote controls that if we're watching something and an ad comes on, we can click to our previous channel or whatever. And then you say, and oh, by the way, big boy, who the hell of the millennials is watching TV anymore? We're streaming everything. And so huge technological changes, associated with television viewership. And so what you see is that a number of organizations are reallocating their advertising budgets to go away from kind of more traditional media such as television, such as radio, and God forbid we talk about newspapers. I mean, holy smokes. Who reads newspapers anymore? Well, okay, the Murph Man, but the Murph Man, the Murph Man is in a demographic that grew up with reading newspapers. but newspapers, I mean, that industry is it's got some challenges, right? And so where when I was younger, right, and I hate to walk down memory lane, pardon me, some Diet Coke, but I grew up in the D.C. area, and we had both morning and afternoon papers. So one point, there was one paper that would come out in the morning, and there was another paper that would come out in the afternoon. Right? So you had multiple papers, right? Multiple newspapers, and you had them coming out at different times a day, right? And you go into a lot of major metropolitan areas now, and you've maybe got one paper, and it comes out once a day, and the people who were reading newspapers tend to be the Murph man and older. And, one of the things about the Murph man and the older demographic is that most of us aren't going to be around in another, and many of us, not most of us, some of us, let's say some of us aren't going to be around in 20 years. And it's not like we're being replaced in the pipeline by a lot of people who were sitting there saying, yeah, I got to read my newspaper. And so you've got a lot of these changes that are, that are going on, driven by both technology and sociocultural kinds of things, and it has tremendous implications for advertising. And so when marketers are looking at different kinds of media, right? One of the things that they're looking at is they need to be thinking about, well, what audience, who's my target? It goes back to stuff that we talked about before when we talked about segmentation, targeting, and positioning, right? Who are my target audiences, and what do I know about my target audiences? And so and that's that's part of the challenge if we talk about integrated marketing communication. If you think, for example, if you're John Carroll University and you've got a number of different stakeholders that you as John Carroll University need to communicate with. One set of stakeholders is people like you who are current students. Another set of stakeholders might be parents, right? A third set of stakeholders might be alumni. Another set of stakeholders might be employers or prospective employers, right? And if you think about, if we just focus on, let's say, you guys most of you or many of you are undergraduate students, right? If we focus on you as undergraduate students, and then we focus on the John Carroll class of 1968, and basically they'd be 72 years old. Think about how does John Carroll, what's the best way that John Carroll would need to communicate with, you guys who are 19, 20, 21, 22-ish versus communicating with somebody who's 72 years old, right? And so there's a real, there's like, oh my God, I got to have, those about, oh, we got to have something. It's got to be on paper. Right? We got to paper. We got to be able to touch it and smell it and do all sorts of fun things like that. So I've hit about the 23-minute mark on this, and so we will stop there, and then in the next the discussion we will talk about direct marketing and personal selling and sales promotion. See you then. Bye.